This week on ANN, medical outreach from a team of Australian eye doctors.
Young people share their faith in the Philippines.
And reaching Angola with a message of hope.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, an Adventist medical team in Australia is bringing the gift of sight to underprivileged communities in the Philippines. Record and Focus sent this report.
The Cagayan Valley region is known for its high incidence of cataracts, but the cost of treatment is out of reach for many who gradually become totally blind. The team from Sydney Adventist Hospital's Healthcare Outreach Project and aid organisation Foresight Australia worked together to bring the gift of sight through cataract surgery, a procedure that is commonplace in Western countries.
In a way, it's a miracle, especially for the people who have barely got no money, cannot even afford to go to the town just to get their eyes checked. So when the team went there and did this mission, it was a big impact on the lives of each of those people who went to have their eyes done.
Plans are already underway to return in May for more operations and to train local medical staff.
A Sabbath worship service in the Philippines recently drew more than 10,000 young people, youth leaders and pastors to Manila. The event capped a week-long youth evangelism series in the region called Power of One. A year ago, local Adventist youth leaders challenged young people to befriend their neighbors and community members. Since then, young Adventists have spiritually mentored their new friends. More than 1,000 of them chose to join the Adventist Church through baptism on the final day of Power of One. After the worship service, young people distributed 5,000 copies of The Great Hope. The book is an adaptation of The Great Controversy by church co-founder Ellen White.
Luanda, Angola is one of dozens of major cities worldwide where the Adventist Church will host urban evangelism in the coming years. Adventists in the church's Southern Africa Indian Ocean region connected with thousands of residents of Luanda at a recent outreach event. Communication Director Paul Charles sent this report.
More than 20,000 Seventh-day Adventists gathered in Cittadella Desportiva Stadium in Luanda, Angola to launch Luanda for Christ, which is part of the initiative of the SID to reach every major city with the life-changing truth about God's grace through Jesus Christ. Members who were enthusiastic about their faith personally sacrificed to be present at the stadium, where they demonstrated their passion to take the gospel to every corner of the world. Dr. Paul Ratsara, in his address to the leaders and members, made it clear, our mission and message to the cities will unite us as a global people and guard us from isolating ourselves from society and from each other. We will demonstrate the timeless relevance of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our message to the cities of the world is that another city is coming, the New Jerusalem, a city of safety, hope, and refuge with God at its center. As more than 20,000 Bibles were distributed, Pastor Mulambo answered the question, how is the SID with the two Angola unions going to facilitate the anticipated more than 10,000 evangelistic series planned for later in the year, especially in Angola?
More than 52,000 Bibles for the small groups were given. The week began with the prayers in every church. By Thursday, hundreds and hundreds of people were baptized. And today we just witnessed a baptism of a few, just to symbolize the many baptisms that have going on.
Elder Michael Lee Ryan, in his sermon, highlighted that a renewing of our corporate culture compels us to reach out like Jesus.
A retired top church official is celebrating his 100th birthday this month. Clyde Franz served as executive secretary of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church from 1970 to 1980. At the time, the department was responsible for fulfilling mission posts worldwide. Franz credits his longevity to living a healthy vegetarian lifestyle, resting on the Sabbath, and in his own words, being blessed beyond measure. Franz is currently living in a retirement facility in the U.S. state of North Carolina, but still maintains his independence and even his driver's license.
Adventist Health experts will meet in the U.S. state of New York next week for the annual Health Summit sponsored by the Church in North America. This year, they're promoting a new addiction recovery program that offers a spiritual take on the traditional 12-step program used by Alcoholics Anonymous. Earlier today, I sat down with Katja Reinert to learn more about Adventist Recovery Ministries. Thanks for speaking with us, Katja.
My pleasure.
How is the program used by the Adventist Recovery Ministries different from typical 12-step programs?
So we take the 12-step programs, but we bring Christ to the center of it. As you might know, the 12-step talks about higher power as a source. So we identify who that high power is, and we bring Christ to the center as the means for recovery. And so we actually focus on, for instance, the book Steps to Christ, and we compare the chapters of Steps to Christ to the 12 steps, and also Christian principles like surrender, recognizing that there is a need. And so we really match those 12 steps with Christian principles that can help people recover from any kind of compulsive behavior.
Oh, what are you doing to bring awareness to this program?
So one of the ways, we of course are writing articles about it. We have a website called Adventist Recovery .org, where people can go and find more information about it. We have brochures. We have a newsletter called Journey to Wholeness, which has it's a bi-monthly newsletter, which is free. People can sign up right online at the same website. And we also have training for leadership. Just next week we'll be in New York training leaders from around the country, in Canada and other places around the world, really, that will be instituting this in their local church. Another way, also, Hope Channel will be launching a series called Unhooked, which will feature what this ministry is about.
Oh, good. Now, what would you say to an Adventist who is struggling with some type of addiction?
We want to tell them that they're not alone. There are a lot of people that are struggling with compulsive behaviors that are unhealthy. And we want them to feel welcome, to come to our doors, to our churches, and feel at home. We want them to know that we understand and that we are there to help them through this process of recovery, and that with Christ they can and will find full recovery as they move along through the steps. We feel that they will find a warm and cozy environment with people who really love them, and we want to welcome them to our churches and to this program.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Katja.
My pleasure.
Coming up, a blind pastor calls for more ministry opportunities for the disabled community.
Whatever you do, do it all in the name of the Lord.
As I was reading through The Great Hope, this phrase caught my attention. Men are not to be left in darkness concerning this important matter. The warning against this sin is to be given to the world before the visitation of God's judgments, that all may know why they are to be inflicted and have opportunity to escape them. The reason why this phrase gives me hope is that even though in this world, which we have created and inherited and just lived in so much sin, that even at the end when God's mercy is short and he needs to finish this, to end this, that in his mercy, he's going to provide us with warnings so that we that believe will escape them. And then we can inherit the heaven, eternity with him and live with him forever.
I pray for wisdom from God to do really good in school and to do really good in piano and my piano lessons. I pray that all the people that are sick can become well, and whoever needs food should get food and be happy. Please pray 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, and 7 days a week.
Freedom was actually God's idea. When we discover that our greatest freedom is surrendering to Him, and permitting Him to direct our steps, then we experience true freedom.
Welcome back. Adventist leaders are challenging congregations worldwide to make church a more welcoming place for the disabled community. Raymond Dabrowski has more.
When someone with a disability sits down next to you in church, do you know how to make that person feel at home? The World Church leadership is addressing this and similar questions in a coordinated and intentional awareness effort, highlighting the special needs represented by those among us who are visually impaired, those with speech and hearing disabilities, and those with limited mobility, as well as those with cognitive and psychiatric disabilities. Consider that many of these brothers and sisters all too frequently just sit and wait to become welcomed and invited to contribute their talents to a church community. Change begins with recognition of a challenge. In preparation for the Christian Record Annual Day of Giving in April, I sat for an interview with Dr. Dexter Thomas, a pastor who is totally blind. He told me about his concerns.
For the church to have more disability awareness days, where you actually find physically challenged people and have them do ministry. We need to come alongside the physically challenged, have them do ministry, have them minister to you as a sighted person, and by so doing, give them an opportunity to be filled with God.
What comes to mind is empowerment and acceptance. Through better awareness of the needs and full inclusion of believers with disabilities in church life and witness, we will strengthen our potential in making our Seventh-day Adventist congregations a more welcoming community.
Now let's turn to Megan Bronner for a look at this week's Adventist social media highlights.
A team of young adults devoting a year to outreach and community service in New York City continue to ramp up their social media presence this week. The 1 Year in Mission team posts photos and updates daily, so you can follow the 14 volunteers from 14 countries as they participate in acts of service. Visit facebook.com/1 Year in Mission to like the page. You can also follow their journey on Instagram and Twitter with the hashtag OYIM, or follow the official Twitter account OYIM13. The Revival and Reformation Initiative shared a free ebook download this week through Twitter. The book, titled Praying for Rain, is available through the iTunes Store, or you can visit them on Twitter for a direct link to download the book to your favorite iOS device. And earlier in the week, Florida Adventist Hospital advertised their online chat about heart health through Twitter. Followers of the account got a chance to ask questions and receive live answers through the hospital's webinar. You can follow Florida Hospital on Twitter for daily access to practical and current health information. The Record Keeper web series is shooting 11 episodes this month. You can follow their progress and get behind-the-scenes access on the official Facebook page. And good news for all the pinners out there. The Record Keeper is now on Pinterest. Make sure you check both sites regularly for exclusive sneak peeks at TRK costumes, props, and video blogs. One more Adventist magazine joined Twitter recently. Make sure to follow the New Liberty magazine account so you can keep up to date on the latest religious liberty news. And Adventists around the world wished Clyde Franz a happy centennial this week on Facebook and Twitter. The former World Church Secretary celebrated his 100th birthday on March 1st.
A young woman in Costa Rica is studying the Bible thanks to her mother's faith and an unexpected visit. Robert Costa explains on this month's feature from the Ministerial Association.
Jesus said, "Go therefore and make disciples to all nations." Why is this so important? Because everyone must have a chance to meet Jesus before he comes. And God promises that if we go by faith, he will go before us. We are not alone in this. Come with me to San Jose, Costa Rica. I was invited to preach. At the close of the service, I made an altar call. Two ladies came forward, a mother and a daughter. Both of them were sobbing. So I approached to them after the service. They told me the most amazing story. For years, the mother had been praying for her daughter Jenny, a young attorney. But Jenny had no time for the things of God. One night, this mother had a dream. She saw me preaching at her church and making an altar call at the close of the service. She shared the dream with Jenny, who dismissed it as unlikely that the man that is on television every week will show up at her mother's church. But after some time, Jenny decided to visit her mother's church. It was that very Sabbath. Jenny told me, "My mother even described what you had been wearing." Now Jenny is studying the Bible and preparing for baptisms. You know what? God knows you and me personally. And he's constantly working in our behalf. He's going ahead of us, working in the heart of the people in different parts of the world to finish his work.
How should Christians observe religious holidays such as Easter? On this month's feature from Chaplaincy, Gary Council talks about how chaplains can offer guidance on celebrating religious holy days.
Special days come in three packages: family, patriotic, and religious. Some are personal in their origin and celebration, such as birthdays and anniversaries, while others reflect national values and events, for example, Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Veterans Day. In recent years, the observance of religious holidays has diminished. The black and orange of Halloween with spooks and witches is becoming more popular than the traditional green and red of Christmas that commemorates the first advent of Christ. This year, Holy Week occurs the last week of March. Beginning with Palm Sunday and concluding with Easter, this special time for Christians recalls the passion of Christ from his triumphal entry, Last Supper, trial, and crucifixion to his resurrection appearances. The gospel of Jesus is retold, giving new life, hope, and meaning. During these holy days, take time to prepare, read, and reflect on what they memorialize. Talk with an Adventist chaplain about special ways to observe and celebrate these important days. Adventist Chaplaincy Ministries has materials to help you and your church observe religious holy days.
Still ahead on ANN, how science and faith have influenced the idea of equality in society.
But up next, a preview of this week's Bible study lesson.
I pray for me to listen, learn more about Jesus, and read more about the Bible. My grandma's cat is old and I don't want it to die. I pray for that. I pray for my family. Please pray at 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, 7 days a week.
The book The Great Controversy for me is the most powerful book that Ellen White wrote. This is the book that can touch lives and hearts. The Great Controversy Project is the great opportunity that our church has to do something big for God in this time when the people is looking at the catastrophes and the problems. We will present our message of hope.
An army of youth, mobilized on the streets of the world, united in service, and driven by His command. Go and do likewise. What would it look like? You. Join 8 million youth around the world as they leave the building to be the church. We can make a difference, one act of kindness at a time. Today, you are the sermon.
All around the world, Seventh-day Adventists are reading one chapter of the Bible per day. We call it Revived by His Word. Please join in and visit the Revived by His Word website. Open today's reading and read the accompanying blog. Add your comments or read the comments of others. Get the Google Calendar to remind you, or download the printable calendar of the reading program. Learn more about Revived by His Word and how you can tell others about this project.
14 young adults from around the world are coming together in one city. Their mission? Rolling up their sleeves and hitting the streets to help others wherever and whenever they are needed. Follow these urban missionaries as they share their love and their time with people in need. Join them as they create lifelong friendships and share God's love this year in New York City. 1 year in mission, NY13.
Welcome back. This week's Bible study lesson explores the biblical principles of stewardship and how they apply to more than finances. Soraya Homayuni explains.
We tend to think of stewardship in terms of money. As we'll see this week, however, stewardship involves more than just managing our bank accounts and returning a faithful tithe. Yet, whether dealing with money, environmental concerns, or our own health, there are principles of good stewardship, principles that have their ultimate foundation in the creation as depicted in Genesis. In the end, because God is our Creator, and because everything we have is a gift from Him, we are obligated to be good stewards of all He has entrusted to us.
Two prominent figures of the 19th century had distinctly different takes on science and faith. On this month's Geoscience feature, Tim Standish talks about their impact on society.
Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin were born on the same day, February 12, 1809. Both opposed slavery, but their ideas about humanity developed in different directions. In 1833, Darwin wrote of slavery, "What a proud thing for England if she is the first European nation which utterly abolishes it. I was told before leaving England that after enslaved countries all my opinions would be altered. The only alteration I'm aware of is forming a much higher estimate of the Negro character." Later that same year, slavery was banned in the British Empire without bloodshed. American slaves waited 3 decades longer for emancipation. By then, Darwin had published his theory of evolution, and later wrote of Africans as potentially separate species. Some of these, such as the Negro and European, are so distinct that if specimens had been brought to a naturalist without any further information, they would undoubtedly have been considered by him as good and true species. Lincoln founded his opposition to slavery on the idea of a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Perhaps one reason we remember Lincoln as the great emancipator is that Lincoln's creation-based understanding has proven to be a far surer foundation for equality than Darwin's survival of the fittest.
Updating the default settings on your Facebook account can help make social networking easier and safer. John Beckett explains on this week's Tech Corner.
I like Facebook. It's fun to see pictures of friends and sometimes share things I find interesting. And Facebook makes these things easy. Today we're going to look at a few ways you can adjust your Facebook settings. I think this is important to do because it will make Facebook work like you want it to, rather than just accepting what Facebook thinks is best. First though, here's one Facebook rule I try to live by. I only post things that I wouldn't mind the whole world seeing. This means I stay away from unhappy, sarcastic, and controversial stuff on Facebook. Now we'll look at a few settings. Once you've logged in, click on the little gear-shaped icon towards the upper right of your screen. If you click on Privacy Settings, you can see some options to restrict who can see your posts. I've chosen to only let my friends see my posts. Once you're done, you may want to also limit your past posts to your new settings. Next, check out Timeline and Tagging. I don't like people adding things to my timeline without my approval, so I've set up mine to review any post or tag before it shows up. If you're tired of seeing those invitations for Farmville or some other app, customize your blocking settings. Blocking just a few apps has made Facebook a much more enjoyable place for me. You may also want to explore the Apps section to remove apps you no longer use. One last section I recommend checking out is Security. I highly recommend turning on Secure Browsing. Customizing my Facebook settings has made it a lot better for me, so I encourage you to have a look at your settings if you haven't done so already or recently.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, Adventist healthcare expands in South America.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History, one notable for medical firsts in South America. On March 3 in 1936, Clarence C. Chrysler and a group of missionaries set out for Tibet. They never reached the remote country, and Chrysler died of pneumonia near Lanchao in China. Chrysler had been private secretary to Ellen G. White from 1901 until her death in 1915, then went to China the next year, where he served 20 years as a missionary. On March 4 in 1895, the 31st General Conference session concluded in Battle Creek. It's notable because it formally approved a new form of denominational organization, the Union Conference, which had first been pioneered in Australia in 1894. Also on March 4, but 87 years later in 1982, the Hospital Adventista de Vitoria was founded in the city of Vila Velha in southeastern Brazil. On March 5, in 1899, the prominent African-American Adventist leader and later notable defector from Seventh-day Adventism, Lewis C. Sheaf, was ordained by the GC president, George A. Irwin. On March 7, 1994, a new medical school opened at River Plate University in Argentina, just the third medical school at an Adventist university. And on March 9, 1942, Hospital Adventista de São Paulo opened its doors to the public in São Paulo, Brazil. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, follow us on Twitter. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide and join in our weekly social media conversations. Just search for Adventist News on Twitter.com.
Our good news for this week comes from James. The passage says, "Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.